Hey everyone, welcome to another episode from Ampro Engineering. We're going to talk about a sequel, pretty much, to one of my favorite RC cars ever made, which might sound a little odd because most people could care less about the car that this vehicle is replacing. The car in question is the brand new Enduro 12 from Element. I actually don't have a single Element RC car, which is odd because I love Team Associated. I'm really not all that up to speed on a lot of modern trail trucks and crawlers. I'm pretty bad at it, honestly. But I've always wanted to get an Element, and then when I heard that the CR12 from Associated was getting replaced with this Enduro 12 from Element, I had to see more. So this version of it, I believe there are 3 variants. This is the Ecto body variant. Here's some basic information on the vehicle. It does come with a FlySky receiver and radio, which is fantastic. Oil-filled shocks with threaded bodies, a nice simple transmission, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This side over here gives some specifics on the Ecto variation. And then this here shows a little game. Let's open this up. Okay, I did actually open this up previously. There's the truck, manual. I suspect this box has the radio gear inside of it. We'll get to that in a moment. Let us first marvel at what I think is one of the most ideal sizes for an RC vehicle. Now that may be a little bit confusing to some of you because this is not a 1/10 scale car. But the fact of the matter is, 1/10 scale cars are kind of big. And I've always felt that a slightly smaller vehicle tends to be a little bit more transportable, and I do a lot of traveling, and I always bring a bunch of RC cars, and I never bring a 1/10 scale car because they won't fit. So let's pull the body off. We do have a very simple Lexan body with some molded mirrors, which are very nice to see. Little molded cage at the rear. Body has a nice bit of flex to it. Pretty simple, but seems durable. The chassis is what I'm extremely interested in, and I'll explain why shortly. The first thing I want to mention is the frame rails. Now, I don't know if they're metal or steel or aluminum. Okay, so these are steel frame rails. Very nicely done. Simple. These are non-C channel frames, but there's quite a bit of cross bracing over here. So, wow. The rigidity is pretty remarkable. Yeah, I am able to give it a bit of flex here, but I'm actually worried that I'll bend it if I apply too much pressure. It feels very, very stiff. I like that. Motor mounted up here, biased to the front, but nice and low. Ample ground clearance. We have a 4-link rear, 4-link front. The links are pretty basic. You know, they are molded, very flexy. The flexibility is going to be good for reliability. These drive shafts actually look a lot better than the ones on the CR12 that this replaces. The axles are so much smaller than the CR12, and that is not a negative comment. The CR12 axles were huge and very out of place. These look great. Axle mounted servo, which normally not a huge fan of. It does very nicely, you know, kind of stay out of the way in here. I wouldn't call this a scaler, obviously. What we're going to have here is a solid trail truck and decent rock crawler. So I think that there's less people that are going to go the scale path for this and more people that are going to go the entry-level rock crawler trail truck. That's, I think, where that's going to go. And as a result, this is a very good option there. I feel like this cable could be a bit longer. I feel like that's a little bit too short right there. Shocks feel great. They are oil-filled, threaded body, little fake winch at the front. Boy, there's some options for lighting here. We have a very cool. So this is a ESC receiver combo, which is great. That's why you've got channel 1, channel 3, channel 4. Channel 2 is already built in. 1, 2, 3, 6 sockets for lighting, which is great. This is a 6-volt battery eliminator circuitry. Voltage, 2 to 3S LiPo, 5 to 9, that's nickel metal hydride. Very nice. Power switch is kind of in a weird spot. I mean, I guess you can just reach your hand underneath and power it up. I'd kind of like to see it aiming down, but, you know, there's pros and cons to both. I also feel like this is going to get full of garbage I don't know if there's an option, if it's sealed. I feel like I can see the PCB in there. A little cap maybe, or heck, even just a piece of tape to cover it when you've got this thing going. Overall, yeah, very good. Very simple, and I feel like I've seen this before. This is TED. TED is a Tamiya Blackfoot body that has been extensively, it's hard to even begin what's happened to this truck. Anyway, it's a Tamiya Blackfoot body. It has a full depth interior, Ampro design, lots of Ampro pieces on here, front bull bar, rear receiver hitch attached to the chassis. There's an electronics bin in there, 3D printed Ampro designed wheels, lots of stuff. Now, this truck was made possible purely because of this truck. This is the Team Associated CR12. Ignore the fact that it's slightly crooked. It's been sitting on its roof for years because I wanted to preserve the tires. Maybe that was a bad idea. Anyway, this is the CR12 from Team Associated. It came in a few different flavors. This particular one is a Ford F-150 with the flare side bed. You have a separate molded front end with actual headlights, and I believe even the marker lights work. So I saw this chassis and suddenly got the idea that this might be the perfect donor for this. All I've done is increase the wheelbase on this vehicle. I forget how much. I've got a whole build series on the body mounts required to make this car and on and on. I don't want to make this video about this vehicle, but I wanted to thank this vehicle for making this not on the Tamiya SRB chassis. I have done an in-depth video on this vehicle, which is linked up in the corner right now. However, what I wanted to mention is it's actually the Thunder Tiger variant, which is called the Thunder Tiger Hilux. Same exact car. This is the Team Associated CR12. This vehicle has metal links, some, decent little drive shafts, ginormous axles. I mean, they're way oversized. Real simple steel C-channel frame. And if you grab it in the center, it's basically made of butter. I adore this car, and I've said for many years that it's underappreciated. Yes, it is extraordinarily simple, but its slightly smaller size makes it fit lots and lots of older bodies. Parking this vehicle next to this vehicle, I'd like to investigate a few things. So we're going to pull this body off, and I'm curious what all is the same here versus here. Now, I've actually asked Associated about this, and I'd like to thank My Build Projects for getting back to me with a verification of what's the same from the Associated CR12 to the Element Enduro 12. And the things that are the same are the transmission gears, the shocks, front and rear receivers, this piece right here, which is great because I think I actually used these parts for something. Slider mounts, you can see these pieces right there, and these pieces here are the same. These sliders are on the Sendero, I believe. They're not on the Ecto, but they are on the Sendero. If I lift this up a bit here, you can also see the size of the axles. These are really meaty. Now, the axles here have lost quite a bit of detail. These actually do look like an axle. Again, I think most of whoever's going to buy this isn't going to be buying this for the extreme scale appearance. They're going to want it for better functionality, and overall shrinking everything on the axles, I think, was the way to go. There is a considerable amount of things here that are completely different. I'm grateful to hear that the gears and the gearbox are the same. This means that any future upgraded components for this should fit this vehicle as well. You can see straight across the shocks are identical. What I'm trying to say is this vehicle had a lot of potential. Very, very basic, very, very simple, but I've always loved it, and I've put a lot of miles on it. So seeing an improved variation of it is absolutely wonderful. I already have a serious plan for this chassis, which I cannot wait to get started. But before I do that, I just wanted to learn more about it. I'd like to throw a battery in here and see what else we have in the box. I've not seen this variation before. So this is hill climb and crashes. This is... So we've got kind of chutes and ladders, right? Is that what this game is like? Our little chips here, the Enduro 12, Enduro. Here's your little spinner right there. And then you've got, That is really cool. Okay. So this is part of a servo. These seem to be some, well, I'll find out in the instructions. They look like a little adapter. These little 850 milliamp batteries, don't laugh at these. This truck is relatively small. It's very light. These can run quite a bit. The only reason I don't run this anymore is mine finally died after several years. So yes, it's tiny. It's still a solid pack. And for me, I don't know if these are dated or not for everybody else. I still run Dean's plugs everywhere. Here's your standard USB charger, which is, again, all you need. And I think what we're going to have here is a Fly Sky radio. That's hilarious. 10 minutes ago, I put away one of my FMS cars. And that's the remote. So you can see the difference. It's likely that this is the Fly Sky product. Anyway, so I'm well versed with this remote. Oh, I lied. It's better. That's cool. We actually have some more functionality here, and this is outstanding. Up here, I don't know if you can see this very well, but up here it shows the running modes, the battery type, and the drag brake for the dip switch settings, which is fabulous. It's also pleasant to use. You can one-hand drive it. To me, it's a little bit on the far side, but it's totally doable. Down here, you do have 4 AA batteries. All right, so the decal sheet right here. Got this scale bill. Where have I heard of that person before? Sounds familiar. He's probably not all that popular. Over here, we've got our, let's see here. This is just a little advertisement right there. And then over here, we've got our manual. Okay, I was about to say, there's a lot of manufacturers that their manuals are a joke. Now, although you're not building this, it is still nice to see more of the mechanical documentation on the vehicle. I'm just kind of curious. We are seeing what hardware goes where. We have part numbers for the links, part numbers for, it seems like quite a bit of the components here, which is very nice. Batteries charged up, remote batteries are installed. Let's see, let me pop this in here. Don't mind having the battery mount at the rear. Actually, come to think of it, that's what those are. These here, I believe, I'm almost positive that that's what these are for. All right, those are in. Cool. So that is what those are for. I didn't see anything in the manual. That doesn't mean it's not there. That could also just mean that I didn't see it. So now with the battery mounted to the front, I don't really know if that's any better. Usually for climbing more vertical walls, you'd want to have the weight at the front so the vehicle isn't toppled backward. Okay, anyway, that's in. First time firing, remote, and the vehicle. Okay, with the vehicle powered on, seems to have a good amount of power. I've certainly seen worse. You know, it's a pretty simple operational servo, no complaints there. Let's see what the throttle response is like. Ooh. So this is forward and back, no brake. That's the first one here. Now forward, brake, reverse. Okay, there's not much more I can learn from my desktop, so let's go ahead and take this for a drive. Okay, show me how you do it. Well done. So upon driving this vehicle, the first thing I want to mention is that although I have driven its older brother, the team associated CR12, for probably 200 battery packs, if not more, I really didn't drive it back when it had its Lexan body. And as a result, the CR12 always felt kind of heavy. And there's no surprise there. That body added probably 3 times the weight of the overall truck. With that said, this vehicle is extremely light and extremely nimble. The fact that it does have this, flexible Lexan body definitely helps to lower the center of gravity. My son actually drove this quite a bit and had a good time with it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really give you a good showing of what the vehicle is capable of doing. I simply didn't have the ability to run to an area that was, nice and rocky for it. But based on what it was able to do, it just chugged right along. You pointed somewhere and it went over it. Secondly, I'm really surprised at how good these shocks feel. The first thing you see with any kind of plastic shock is that it's a disposable unit. And the fact of the matter is, obviously, I'm not really seeing, maybe there's a little tiny bit of seepage there, but nothing crazy. Nothing is covered in dirt from the shocks just dumping oil, which is really good. The shock oil that comes in the shocks feels really, spot on as well. I did mount the battery, as we saw earlier, to the front of the vehicle, so there is more of a front weight bias, which, coming from someone with perhaps less experience in the rock crawling world, I kind of felt better there, but again, it's pretty easy to, mount it wherever you want. The question is, do you want to get one? If you're into 1/10 scale trail trucks, or in this case here, I'm going to focus more on the crawler realm, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to dive into a 1/12 scale vehicle. And I find that to be a little bit unfortunate. It may not look it, but this is significantly smaller than a 1/10 scale rig, which means it takes up a lot less room. So when you're packing up your car to go somewhere, or you want to throw it in your toolbox in your pickup, this doesn't take up that much real estate. And that's one of the reasons why I really like his older brother, is because even with the Blackfoot body and all that, it's still really small. So I'm able to kind of take it pretty much anywhere I want to go. But the larger 1/10 scale trucks, I find to be more difficult. Now, if you're new with the hobby, yes, absolutely get one of these before you spend significantly more on a 1/10 scale vehicle, partly because out of the box, this is really, really solid. The tires perhaps could be a bit softer. I would go a little softer with the tires, but really, that's the biggest complaint I have with this vehicle. Given that I have a lot of experience with, the transmission and certain elements of the vehicle, no pun intended, I have a lot of faith in this car being just as reliable as the CR12. Now, there's another section of you that may not realize how much you want this truck. The fact of the matter is, and I've got some pictures up right now, that this vehicle will fit a lot of older Tamiya bodies with just a slight wheelbase alteration. So I have already developed body mounts to fit the Blackfoot, Subaru Brat, Clodbuster, Monster Beetle, not the Sand Scorcher, the Monster Beetle, the Wrangler, and is that it? I think that's it. Maybe I'm forgetting something. So that's what I have currently. So I'll have a video up soon of the variations of the body mounts and how to install them and how adjustable they all are. And what that's going to give you is a unmatched scale appearance for minimal outlay. You can focus all that detail on the body and slap a chassis under it that's incredibly inexpensive and incredibly functional. And most importantly, perhaps other than the Subaru Brat, can give a very scale appearance. So stay tuned for that. My friends, I hope you liked this video. Again, I wish I was able to put this truck really through its paces, but the 4 or 5 battery packs that I did run through it were a ton of fun. My son loves it, absolutely loves this thing, and that is a wonderful compliment. We will see you next time.